Hello, hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascale Cook Fernandez. Happy December, and holy moly, how is it already December? We're coming to the end of season 3 on the podcast, and I'm truly in awe of just how far we've come. Think about one celebration that you have as we're beginning the last month of 2023. For some, it will be easier than others, but no matter, we all have something we can celebrate. And speaking of celebration, I have a free event coming up for you. If you find yourself stuck in a job that just doesn't vibe with who you truly are, or perhaps you're yearning to make more money while making meaningful impact on others. Maybe you're already thriving in your boss status, but you're hungry for the next level of growth. If you answered yes to any of these questions, get ready for a game-changing experience. I am thrilled to invite you to mark your calendars because on December 12th, 13th, and 14th, we are diving into a transformative journey during my 3-day virtual event. It's time to be your own boss, align your life with purpose, and make more money in 2024. Here's what you need to know. Once you save your seat by clicking the link in show notes, you will join me live in the Zoom room for 1 hour each day, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is not just another event. It's your ticket to discovering, exploring, and learning the essential tools needed to craft a business that aligns with your unique strengths. But wait, there's more. We're talking prizes. By showing up for yourself and participating in the event, you can win free mentorship with yours truly. All you have to do is save your seat, show up, and play full out. Stay tuned for more details on day 1. It's going to be epic. Here are the highlights from each day. Have you ever wondered what sets you apart? On day 1, we're unlocking the secrets of your unique PhD, those life experiences and skills that make you extraordinary. Get ready to harness your distinctive strengths and turn them into a business advantage. Your dream of making a profound impact starts with a crystal clear vision. Join us on day 2 to lay out your roadmap to success. On our final day, it's all about setting the foundations for your success. Discover essential tools, insights, and knowledge to align, elevate, and thrive in your business. Click the link in show notes now to save your seat because this is not just an event. It's a catalyst for your transformation. The universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together. I'll see you there, ready to make 2024 your best year yet. Speaking of making things great, I want to introduce you to this evening's guest. Penny Chiasson was a healthcare professional for 25 years, and in 2019, she walked away to focus her attention on creating an iconic approach to personal evolution. She combines her experience as an expert transformational hypnotist, intuitive, and experiencer to authentically and compassionately connect with and facilitate massive personal expansion for her clients. Penny is a #1 international bestselling author and integrates the power of the conscious, subconscious, and consciousness to help her clients overcome their inner critic so they can fully enjoy life without fear, doubt, or overwhelm. Without further ado, welcome to Women Finding Clarity, Penny Chiasson. Penny, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I look forward to having a chat with you that your audience will find beneficial.
Yes. Honestly, my first experience with you was in Kathy Heller's program, and you came as a special guest and you led a hypnosis session, and it was beautiful. And I was shocked by how aware I was, but also how deeply I felt in that session.
That is one of the most common misperceptions that it's that people have. They think hypnosis, they're supposed to be relaxed, they won't remember, they're put out, they're put under. People tend to think of hypnosis more like anesthesia, which was my past life. They think of it more like anesthesia than they do a state of mind, and that's really all that it is.
So, I mean, I guess the reality is, right? We're always walking around in some state of hypnosis.
We we do. Our brain waves actually cycle, and we will spontaneously go into states where we are more receptive to being influenced by the information around us. And some prime times that happens are when we're driving, or maybe reading a book, watching a movie, uh, watching the news, which I don't recommend. I recommend consuming your news in some other way. If you feel that you need to watch the news, and make sure that you're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. I'm tongue tied today. Just so that you're thinking critically when you read the news.
Yeah, that's great advice because I mean, 99.9% of the time I try to steer clear of the news just because I feel like so much of it is such a low vibration. And I just try to keep my vibration higher and I don't want to be brought down.
I totally, totally get it, because we can pick up on the emotions of others and be influenced by that, because energy is energy, and we're all connected. I'm sure more than a few people listening to this podcast have had an experience where they've walked into a room, and within just seconds to a minute or two of being in that room, the energy, the mood is palpable, and that's just the vibration of the predominant emotion within the space.
Yeah. And honestly, when I think about that, I always think about being pulled down by that energy. I feel like that's
Yeah.
when I notice it the most is when I walk into a room and I'm like, what is happening? But it's almost euphoric to walk into a room where the energy is higher than you're feeling. And then it's medicine.
Oh, absolutely. I went to Kathy's retreat in Boca
Oh, I'm
back in
so
June,
jealous.
and that energy stayed with me for weeks. So I totally, totally understand what you're saying. It's, it tunes into our soul when we're in
Yeah.
that higher state and around people in that higher state.
Ah, just listening to it feels so good. I so would have loved to have attended her retreat. You know, I had company visiting, family visiting from Europe and from England. So I won't say I missed out because I had my own amazing time then too, but so unfortunate that they overlapped.
Yeah, there'll be another time. I'm sure it probably won't be the last.
Absolutely not. So, Penny, I'm so curious. You used to be in healthcare. What did you used to do, and how did you start studying hypnosis?
Oh, goodness. I was a nurse, and I really didn't know a whole lot about nursing when I became a nurse. I had three aunts who were nurses, and I just wanted to be able to have a good job and be able to do the things I wanted to do. And I just fell in love with it. I ended up in the ICU. And once I ended up in the ICU, it's like, oh, I want to do anesthesia. So I spent 10 years in critical care. Then I graduated from anesthesia training. And I realized one of the things that I don't like, and this is universal, this is before I knew about the mind, really. I don't like to see people in pain, mental, emotional, physical. I just don't like it. And I recognized that when I went through my anesthesia training, that as an experienced veteran critical care nurse, there were some things that I learned that would have made my approach to keeping my patients comfortable so much better. So I started doing the research. I got this wild hair. This is my first entrepreneurial bug. I got this wild hair to start a continuing education company, educating people around pain. And when I dug into the research, like, what do we do when people are too sleepy for pain meds or they're too sick for pain medication? And I uncovered a massive body of research around hypnosis for pain. So it took me a few years because the only hypnosis certification programs I could find were weekend courses taught by people. And then I finally found one taught by a retired nurse anesthetist who also specialized in pain management. And I'm like, oh, this will be cool. I still didn't plan to be a hypnotist. I was going just for my own education. And the fifth day, because every day we had practice and demonstrations, the fifth day, he was demonstrating how you could use hypnosis to numb a body part. And who was the Air Fingers quote volunteer that got called up to be in front of the class? It was me. And I had seen the video on his website and I knew what he was going to do. And I just kept telling myself, get out of your head, follow his instructions. You know, he knows what he's doing. And using hypnosis, he numbed up my hand and he clamped a surgical clamp shut on the back of my hand. It was so tight, it left a mark on my hand for 2.5 hours where it had pinched into the skin. I never felt a thing. I left class that day and I told my husband, oh, when I come home, I'm starting hypnosis practice. He's like, what? What are you talking about? So, I mean, it took a few months to evolve, but it was something on the side to keep my skills fresh so I wouldn't lose what I learned. It was my retirement plan for when I turned 60, and no, I'm nowhere near 60 yet. But the really crucial part to what I do now is that there were some life events that happened. We moved halfway across country, and I had a personal emotional crisis related to a lot of things that happened that I gratitude bypassed. Right. I was going back to my Southern roots of, oh, you should just be grateful that. And I never dealt with what I was feeling. And I was a healthcare provider, but I didn't work in mental health, worked critical care anesthesia. I did not recognize within myself a high functioning depression and anxiety until I hit the wall at 100 miles an hour. And I did some counseling. We did some medications, and all it was doing was keeping me off the edge. And at the urging of a nurse, I did some journaling. And because of the hypnosis work I had done, as I did the journaling, I'm like, this is what it is. And I know this shouldn't be the case. Logically, I knew it shouldn't be a problem, but subconsciously, it was a problem. So I reached out to my mentor. I'm like, hey, I need help. I need hypnosis around this. And after the third session, 6 hours of work together, my life did a 180. And I've been off medications ever since. No counseling, no therapy, nothing. And so this is my mission. We do not have to carry that mental and emotional burden of fear, imposter syndrome, worry, because those things left unchecked can become a bigger issue. So yeah.
Hypnosis literally saved your life.
It literally saved my life because when I hit the wall, it's because I was suicidal.
Oh,
Yes.
I had a feeling, I knew that's what you were alluding to.
Yeah.
And it just, everything inside of me when you just said that was just, because I've gone through postpartum depression and just
Yeah.
years and years and years. And that's what the medication does. Hey, I'm all for medication if it's going to help you,
Yes.
but I do believe there needs to be a blend of Eastern and Western. I do believe that pharma isn't the end all to be all, right? It's a band-aid so you can heal the rest.
Yeah, there was a huge retroactive study that came out last year. We're not going to go down the study rabbit hole here,
Sure.
but they literally looked at almost 30 years of medications like Prozac, Zoloft, Cymbalta, all those medications. And what they found was that it was a person's perception of their life circumstances that made the difference in recovery, not whether or not they were on medication. So
Wow.
it's all how we choose to view our circumstances, and sometimes we need a little help with that. And you know, we all get into patterns of thinking. All of that to say is that wherever you are, if you're not feeling as happy as you would like to be, you can be better.
Yeah. And I want to point to how you gratitude it all away, right? Which was
Oh, geez.
really bypassing, because we all are like, oh, let's have a gratitude journal and let's da da da. And I think that that's important, but also you can't use it as a blindfold to not look at the things that are real for you.
Yeah. I'd had a situation with my stepmom before she transitioned, and then my dad transitioned, and it was challenging circumstances, and everything played out exactly as it was meant to. I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation if it hadn't. But when I would feel anger or I would feel frustration, I would tell myself, you know what, you should just be grateful that you got to blank. I would just fill in the blank. So I was literally pushing down the anger. I was invalidating my own feelings around something that was traumatic and painful. And we tend to do that around a lot of things because many of us, we hear our whole lives growing up. I mean, even as kids, if you want a new pair of shoes and the pair you have on aren't that old, and you're like, hey, mom, I would love to have a new pair of Stan Smiths. And it's like, you should be grateful for the shoes you have because there are kids who don't have shoes. So
Yep.
it's not meant to be invalidating, but that's the way our mind will take it on. And we use it as a salve, right? Um, I've had clients before who want to be high vibration. They feel like they need to be high vibration all the time. So when they do feel bad, rather than saying, what is it that I need right now? Do I need human connection? Should I call a friend? Do I need to get out and be in nature? They just go to music or affirmations or journaling, and they force themselves out of it. Now, sometimes we're in a situation where we can't address what we need. So that shift is okay, provided we go back and address what was bothering us. Because when we invalidate our feelings and our needs, our brain, so if we're having a lower vibration emotion, our brain is saying, I need something here. Something's not fair. We're missing something that's important, or something feels unsafe. When we invalidate it, the brain will find another way to get our attention. And for some people, that's chronic pain. For some people, it's headaches. For some people, it ends up going to other distracting mechanisms like food, alcohol, right? So, gratitude is essential in being who we want to be in life and creating the life that we want. It's the intention behind the gratitude that can become the problem.
And that's it. And so much of life comes right back to that word intention.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So through life, because life is life and we're all just living life, and we do have this inner voice that says you're not good enough. Who wants to listen to you? You're too loud, you're too quiet, you're too fat, you're too thin, da da da. Who are you to think? Right? And that inner voice comes from so much of that inner voice comes from our past experiences, right? um how does the work you do really flip the script on that inner voice?
Yeah. So that voice can come from a lot of different um, facets of a situation. Someone could have literally said those words to us and it went into us like a lightning bolt and it stuck with us. Or consider as an adult how much context you have about life, how much education and experience you have. And now imagine being 6 years old and you don't have that context. And maybe I'll just give an example from a real life client. Maybe you're in first or second grade. You know, your parents have always told you how smart you are and you're good at what you do. And you're sitting in class and everybody's getting turns to answer something. And the teacher asks a question and you throw your hand up super fast. And the teacher calls on you and you're like, 2 plus 2 is 5. And the teacher's like, wrong. You should have taken your time and thought about it. Next time you won't raise your hand so fast. And now you're like, ooh, I can't be up there, right? I it's not safe to be seen. I may get it wrong. It's not good enough, right? The teacher never said those things. The teacher is probably inappropriate, right? Depending on the context. I wasn't there when that happened, but based on the client's experience, the teacher was really harsh. But sometimes people say things in an effort to be helpful. Said, you know what, great try, but next time I want you to take just a second, give yourself a chance to think it through before you say the answer. In either situation, because that child is in front of the entire class, now it's what did I do wrong? And they shrink back, right? That imprint stays there. That child may go out to the playground, they may have fun with their friends, and they may consciously forget about it. It's done. But the next time there's an opportunity to raise hand in class, the subconscious mind is going to remember, oh no, maybe we shouldn't do that. It pause just a second. So what we do, the work that I do is I do the work a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's directed, and sometimes we just untangle the knots. So I ask very um, open questions. We follow the answers and the clues that the subconscious gives. And as we pull, and then all of a sudden the belief comes out, it's like, oh, you know what? I can't speak up because I might not get the answers right. And I'll say something like, what do you mean? Not get the answers right? Oh, well, I remember this time. And with the client being in a state of focus, we unravel that. And because they're in a subconscious state and not in a conscious state, literally reframing that, speaking it out loud, talking it through, knocks down that whole belief and it neutralizes it because there's nothing wrong with any of us. Any of those impressions that we pick up are beliefs that were given to us through some experience. We don't own those.
It's interesting as you were talking about that example of the teacher, right? Because we're all looking at life through our own lens, the teacher could have said it one of multiple different ways. And it's only because of that child's lens that that particular imprint was made. And
Yes.
so I almost feel like, oh, I should be seeing Penny once a month so we can continue to,
Yeah.
neutralize these imprints
Yeah.
because
I do have clients who do that. We have a once a month retainer as things come up. We neutralize those things. When I became a hypnotist, my kids were already teenagers, but when I learned the specific advanced techniques that get into how the beliefs are actually formed in those misperceptions, I, you know what? I would have been a totally different parent if I had that information before I had kids.
I believe it. I believe it. And there's a certain level of guilt that comes along with that, right? Because, oh, should I have, da, da, da. But I love the wisdom that comes with this education that says, not only did I do the best that I could at that time, but if it's something that maybe imprinted on them a certain way, it's not the end all to be all. It can be
Oh, yeah.
changed.
Yeah. And I mean, I've told my kids, I said, look, you know what? I was just doing the best I could. I had no clue then, what I know now. And you know what? Their kids won't come with an instruction manual either. So
That's right. That's right.
we can only do our best.
I've told my kids on multiple occasions, I'm like, listen, I don't know what you're going to be going to therapy for, but I'm certain there's something.
Most definitely.
But see, they don't need a therapist. They'll just need you. And then you can, and
It,
we're,
it,
kind of making light of it right now.
yes.
But the work that you do is so very powerful. And so, what I do is, I work with women to take the lessons they've learned through life and their purpose and the message that they want to put out into the world. And I empower them to do that. And so, how does the work that you do relate to the entrepreneur, the person who's starting a business?
Oh, I have this amazing client. We did a interview, which is also a podcast episode. But she came to me because she was in a mastermind and she had a business strategy coach. And she had a lot of things in place, but she wasn't quite following through. And we connected because she said, Penny, I realized that, I have this imposter syndrome. I wonder if I'm good enough, if I am in a place to teach and lead a team. That was in December of last year. She had one employee, one part time helper. She's a bookkeeper for interior designers. She's highly niched in what she does. After her, it was after the first session, she went out and she started putting out, not applications, job listings for applications. And by February, she was on track to triple her revenue year over year. I had a recent conversation with her. She just hired her seventh team member, and every time she just hired a seventh team member, and every time she brings on another team member, more clients come lining up at the door wanting to work with her. But we moved into this place where she was confident. She didn't feel like she needed to fix and make everything right for her employees, right? Because people can take their caretaking into their business, and then that's not healthy boundaries. And pretty much off and on, I have supported her as she has gone through these massive up levels in her business and up levels in her thinking, and the subsequent, you know, um, overwhelm that can come up periodically. Most people would sit in that overwhelm, they would stagnate. Nope, we're gonna move through it. Let's What's at the bottom of this? Let's move through it. Let's get clarity. And to just be able to run a business from a healthy place, because our business is a reflection of us. We will not choose differently in our business than we do in our personal life. So if we don't have good boundaries, if we feel like we need to people please everybody, if we have to fix it, if we feel we're not smart enough, not good enough, if we live in lack or scarcity financially, it's going to show up in the decisions that we actually make in our business. So that's how I help people. We unravel these subconscious knots so it's not influencing the decision making in the business, allowing them to be in that higher vibration so they can call in those ideal clients, they can call in ideal team members and trust themselves to create what it is that they want to create.
So powerful. Do you feel like you can help every person on some level?
On some level, yes. Typically, I tend to work with people who are in momentum because if we're in a state where we believe we're stuck, if we're struggling, or if we have victim like thinking. Now, there are a lot of, I mean, I catch myself still periodically. I'll have a thought and it's a victim type thought. Victim thinking and living in victimhood are two extremes of
Yeah.
that. But if you're in that state, the process takes longer because I love hypnosis. It's great for rapid shifts and change. But if you don't embody the way of thinking and the way of being that doesn't recreate that situation, then your day to day life, some aspects are definitely going to change. But in other areas of your life, you're going to continue to repeat those patterns.
And so, say I come to you and I'm feeling stuck in a particular place, and you do the thing and pull the threads, and we get down to the bottom of it. How do I move forward from there? What does that look like?
Usually during the process of working together, there will be incremental steps because every week we check in what's changed, what have you done differently. When I don't give, I may give people homework from time to time. Sometimes I teach a little self hypnosis, but really the way that I work is opening you up to seeing the world through a whole new lens. People already have the plan, the strategy. It's about enabling you to actually go out and implement what it is that you want. I have had people come to me because they were stuck, because they didn't know exactly what they wanted. And they didn't know what they wanted because they had internal conflict, because a part of them knew what they really did want. It just didn't align with what everyone else told them they should be doing.
Mm, it's that word should. Comes back to
Yeah,
bite us every time.
yes, it does.
Yes, it does. So, when someone new comes to see you, what's the first question you ask?
The first question I ask, well, we're going to go through a little bit of identity work. So I ask people to fill out a form like, what are the benefits? Like, what are 7 things you want to see come out of this? And based on a previous conversation I've had with them and what that says, I look for the pattern. I have an ability to see patterns of thinking and to see how things that look completely unrelated actually connect. And so, based on that, I'll say, on your form, you said that you want to be more confident. What does that look like for you? How will you know you're more confident? Well, I would start my YouTube channel, right? I'd be like, okay, what has to happen so you start your YouTube channel? Well, I haven't put it out there before because, and they'll tell me, then I have to circle it back, right? But what do you want? Not the why not. And we basically build out an identity. And that's where we start. What is the identity you want? And so many of my women, they want to be authentic. They want to be able to say what they believe with passion and stand behind it, regardless of what anyone says. And I have women that we start in one place. And as we do the unraveling, they realize that what they thought they wanted was just the tip of the iceberg and they could have so much more.
Amazing. I very much lean into manifestation, and I can absolutely see the correlation and how what you do could skyrocket your manifestation.
I don't make financial claims, right, for what people do, but there's the one client I mentioned earlier who's on track to triple her revenue year over year because she cleared out the stuff that was vibrationally in a way, because manifestation is about more than law of attraction. It's reciprocity, it's law of polarity. That's where your emotions get in the way. when you're swinging from one end to the other with your emotions, that really can get in the way of the process. I have another client that we facilitated work, and 3 months later, she was working with a business coach. But in her words, can I say the F word?
You go for it.
Okay. In her words, her goal was to be unfuckwithable.
I
That was
love
what
it.
she wanted. 3 months after we wrapped up our work together, and she was really just confident in who she was, and she shed these money stories that somehow she would be letting her mother, who was deceased, down if she didn't spend her money the way her mother wanted her to. She had her first six-figure month. In the spring, I had a client that, like, we just unraveled one tiny connection, and she 4 times her return on investment with me within 3 weeks after we started working together. But I don't make those claims because not everyone comes in for money issues, and I have no idea if you have the systems and the strategy in place to actually make that happen. But it does. Our mental state, our subconscious is all over what we're attracting into our lives.
Yeah. I will say just the I told you that I met you through Kathy Heller's program and you came in and did a 30-minute hypnotherapy session and hypnosis session. And honestly, the way I felt just after 30 minutes, I told my husband, I remember telling him, like, I just can't believe how much better I feel, how much more open I feel, how much more confident and um, maybe more grounded in that confidence I felt. So I can't even imagine what that would feel like to work with you for an extended period of
Yeah.
time.
Can you believe that that is something I used to only reserve for my one-on-one clients?
Wow.
And then in January, it was World Hypnotism Day, January 2019. It was the day before my office used to be an hour away from my home because I didn't have internet that would support Zoom at home. So I had to drive to Jackson to have an office. I'd be in the car, and that's when I get my downloads. I would be
Yep.
like, take this confidence session and offer it as a free group session. I had 150 people sign up. I had two groups of 70 doing it live. And for months after I did those sessions, I was getting messages from people. You have no idea how much you changed my life, because some of them were doing it once a week. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. So yeah, it was just a total fluke of following that little nudge from the universe that I do that as a group session. And for some people, it can be very emotional. And for some people, like, you're already in a place where you get that massive leap forward, because in a group, I can't control how deep everyone goes into hypnosis. But based on what you just shared with me, I know that you went deep enough that you laid some solid new beliefs. And that's the difference between a guided visualization, which is just another word for hypnosis, and the insight style of hypnosis that I use with clients.
I feel like, okay, sign me up. I want to learn with you. You teach me all the things. Is there anyone you feel like is not a good fit to go through hypnosis?
There's actually a very clearly defined set of people who should not experience hypnosis, either without a direct referral from a mental health professional or under the direction of a mental health professional. And that is if you're currently in a deep state of depression, you're having suicidal ideation, like if you're actively in that state, you need a mental health professional to deal with that. If you have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, if you deal with active episodes of dissociative disorder, right? Those things aren't something that a hypnotist, even with all my healthcare experience as a hypnotist, I do not have the training or education to deal with those situations. So, you know, if you have trauma, I mean, a lot of different things are trauma, but if you have intense trauma and you haven't been through the appropriate therapy, you don't have the coping skills, the mechanisms, then that becomes a whole other thing as well. I have worked with clients who have trauma, but we weren't working on the trauma. We were working on other issues. They had coping skills, coping mechanisms. Some of them had a therapist on the side. So, you know, I guess you could say that would really be a question between you and the hypnotist that you want to work with. But I'm board certified by the National Guild of Hypnotists. We have an ethics board, and those are the recommendations put out by the ethics board.
Well, then you just answered my next question.
Yes.
Is there an ethics protocol really that you follow to say this is okay, this really, you're crossing the line here?
Yeah, I tune into my instincts, but I have to admit a lot of that draws off my years of healthcare experience.
Sure.
I saw a lot of patients over the years who had different issues, so I can pick up on subtle things that maybe someone who doesn't have that experience wouldn't. But in terms of a professional organization, let's say, for example, like the American Medical Association, the NGH isn't the same as that. It's a member led organization, but we do have an ethics committee. We do have ethics guidelines. Not every hypnotist is certified by the NGH.
So
So
that's really something people should look into if they're considering
just
hypnosis.
ask. Just ask.
Yeah.
And if you feel that, if you have an active diagnosis and you're not sure, um, just ask the person, what background do you have other than hypnosis? I welcome questions because I want someone to be comfortable for me, but also it might make me aware of something I wasn't aware was there, and
Yeah.
might make it easy for me to say, you know what, I absolutely believe I could help you. I believe hypnosis could help you. However, I don't have the qualifications
Yep.
to serve you in your best interest.
Yeah. And I'm certain you've had to say that to people before.
I've even had situations where people did not want to go to therapy, they did not want medications, did not tell me. And like then in the middle of the first session, I'm like, full stop. What's happening here? And
Yeah.
then I get the full story. And I'm like, we can't proceed. And I refunded someone their money because they do hear of these big transformations that people got. They hear my story. I have a podcast episode on it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's appropriate for everyone. And in all fairness, my mentor that I reached out to did mental health counseling and was ABD his PhD before he became a full-time practicing hypnotist. And that's why I reached out to him when I was in the mental emotional state that I was. I got a note from my nurse practitioner that said, yes, you can do this, and then went to him to have it done. So there are professionals out there who do hypnosis as well.
And I love that you have that connection for referral as well, because even if we're not able to help someone, just a referral to someone else is a huge help.
Yeah.
So I love that you stand in your integrity in that, because it's so important. And that really is, it's important for other people to know, okay, she
It,
stands in her integrity. I can trust her. I can feel safe with her.
yeah, it pisses a lot of people off. People get upset when I say not just anybody should be doing hypnosis with someone who says they're dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
If you don't have the qualifications to assess that person of suicidal thoughts versus suicidal ideation, or how to know when they cross the line between the two, you shouldn't be doing it. And people get upset about it, but I don't care because
No.
doing no harm is my first priority.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. You literally, my friend, make people's lives better.
I
And
do my
so
best.
you do. And that's why I was so excited to invite you. I have so many people who ask to be on the show. I reached out and invited you to be on the show because you truly do help women find more clarity. You truly do help women to make their own lives better, right? And so, do you work with men as well?
I do occasionally have men who reach out. I don't turn men down.
Sure.
It's just my clientele ends up being 98, 99% women.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer because I could probe and ask questions and chat with you all day because I find it all to be so very interesting. But I always like to ask, is there anything that you want to offer to listeners?
Sure. You heard me talk about the tools and our thinking. I actually have a mini course called Amplify Success, and it basically walks people through my 3-step process that I've learned to implement in my life to master my thoughts and my attention, to reprogram my subconscious and learn how to tune into my intuition. So I believe I gave you the link for that, but they can go to pennychiasson.com/ amplify hyphen success and use code clarity, and they can get access to that course for just $7.
I love that. Thank you so much for offering that. And I hope everyone takes you up on it because that feels invaluable to me for $7.
It brings in a lot of I don't couch it spiritually, but a lot of those principles are truly go back to us remembering and knowing who we are.
Yeah. It's where it all begins. It's where it
Yep.
all ends. Penny, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciated it.
Penny's work feels magical, right? She is such a lovely soul, and the work she is doing is helping raise the vibration of the collective. Penny offered to do a group hypnosis session for me, which is so very kind and generous. So be sure to keep an eye out for that coming up in the near future. I would love it, and I know you will love it too. Don't forget to click on the link in show notes or go to womenfindingclarity.com/boss to sign up for my 3 free day event, Be Your Own Boss. I can't wait to see you there. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Good night. Thank you for being in our Women Finding Clarity community. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite listening platform and share it with someone you know so they can find clarity from the conversation as well. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. See you next week.